Greetings, this is Wednesday, July 14th, collecting data at 7 p.m., looking at a notification from the NASA's FIRM system, and there are a couple of hotspots that moved a little bit south and a little bit west on the Chasm Park. So immediately I had to jump and see where the infrared was occurring. And there in an orange MODIS spot, I can see it has moved fairly close to the highway. Now remember, those spots don't indicate that there is fire encompassing that square. They only indicate that heat was detected somewhere within that 750 meter square. Also, these satellite detections can be off as much as a kilometer. A short time later, another notification was sent. This time it came from the VIIRS system. That's the Visible Infrared Imaging Radiometer Suite. And these are all through NASA's FIRM system. The links are below in the description, as well as the links for the BC Wildfire situation website, where you can zoom in and find out more about these fires, what's happening on the ground, and what the recommendations are for evacuation orders and alerts. I'd like to take a look at the fire that's southeast of Ashcroft. We're looking at a map of the area. We're looking at the MODIS system on display on the mountain. This is the Tremont fire. It is east of Barnes Lake, and it's in a large forested block approaching the top of the hill. You can also see a long diagonal line stretching from the top center down to the right-hand side. That appears to be a right-of-way for infrastructure, so that's another aspect to consider. We are looking at the MODIS Terra system, and we're watching infrared move east of Barnes Lake, that's on the left-hand side of the screen, and then up and over the hillside. This new data came from the MODIS Terra system, so when comparing the two, we can start to see some motion, and it looks to be moving in an eastward direction. Those orbital paths are updating data about every couple of hours. Here's the VIIRS. It's showing a lot of controlled diagonal patterns, and the NOAA VIIRS is showing a similar pattern and grouping in a similar position. Looking at the wind, there's 9 kilometers from the southwest that's moving it away from Barnes Lake to the northeast. And when we look at the forecast, this is on the ICON model, it's showing consistent wind direction from the southwest. Those gusts can reach over 20 kilometers an hour. So if you're on the northeast side of this fire line, you want to be aware. Looking at the GFS model, it more or less confirms that. The wind direction is more from the south, heading in a more northerly direction, but there is some push from the west. The one that concerns me is the ECM model, and that's using weather stations in a tighter compact around the area of our concern here, and that's showing increased wind gusts above 40 kilometers an hour, some going over 50 kilometers an hour, mainly in the afternoon. So from about 2 p.m., 1400 hours, all the way until 9 p.m., about 2100 hours, is the critical time to watch for wind gusts. We've now rolled into a screen. We're looking at the Sparks Lake fire. This is just northeast and across Highway 1 from the Ashcroft Tremont fire. We're looking at the infrared, the MODIS, and more new hotspots on the western flank of this fire. There looks to be some patterned infrared in there. They could be control strategies to reduce fuel. When we turn on the VIIRS, we can see large clusters of infrared there on the southeastern, the western, and the eastern flanks of this fire. We can also see a large cluster to the north. That's to the southeast of Young Lake. We're going to zoom into a cluster that's just northeast of Red Lake, and we're looking at some of the thoroughfares and access routes there. It's moved up in an area next to Frog Lake, and I can see that there is no infrared at the intersection between Tranquil, Chris Creek Road, and Flynn Road. That looks to be clear. Infrared can be obscured by smoke and cloud, so we may not be seeing all the data available. You have to check with the BC Wildfire link below, look on their map, zoom into your area of concern, click on the icons, and find out what is happening on the ground. Looking at the wind forecast, we're seeing gusts in the afternoon. They can go as high as 30 kilometers an hour. As it cools down in the evening, there might actually be a wind shift and come a little bit from the north. And then looking ahead to Friday, 44 kilometer an hour gusts. Most of this is prevalent from the southwest, moving to the northeast. So just be aware if you're northeast of that fire line, east of that fire line, and also be aware that the wind can shift. We'll move eastward. We're looking at an area called Whitecroft. This is on the road to Sun Peaks. The fire has moved up to the top of the Embleton Mountain. That's on the western side of the valley. However, if we turn on the MODIS system, we can see a few squares that are stretching over to the eastern side of the valley and moving in a direction towards Sun Peaks. I'm not seeing any approach by infrared towards Todd Mountain Road to the south, and generally it looks to be in a similar position as it has carried over the last 24 hours. Looking at a map of the region, we can see clusters of infrared. They're stretching from Mabel Lake. They go up over Highway 1, northeast of Sycamoose, up over the Shuswap, and then towards Adams Lake. And there's a large cluster above the Momich Lakes. And then moving over to a screen from Windy, we're looking at wind coming from the southwest. It's traveling 13 kilometers an hour. We can see areas to the south of the Shuswap which have more intense wind, and then there's pockets where it slows down. So there's going to be variation in the wind speed. The strongest gusts look to be about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. They can reach 50 kilometers an hour plus. And in the evening, when things cool down a bit, we're actually looking at a bit of a wind shift coming from the southeast. So as these weather patterns move over top of us, we're looking at different directions and different speeds in the wind. So just be prepared for potential fairly significant gusts in the afternoon. When we look at a different weather model, this is the ECM, more variation. We're seeing troughs where the air is quite still, and then on higher elevations the air is moving quite quickly. So that's going to change the behavior of the fires. There's lots of clusters of hotspots. They're stretching from east of Kootenay Lake all the way to the east of Skaha Lake. There's some more activity from this view popping up around the Christina Lake area north of Grand Forks. Then when we look to the southern interior, I'm noticing a cluster that's northeast of Merritt, and another one that's popped up on the west side of the Coquihalla, about halfway between Merritt and Hope. That's one to watch for. That's a very important transportation corridor. And then up in the top left corner of the screen, that's the Lytton area, seeing more new infrared both on the north and south side of the Thompson River, and then working up on the east side of the Fraser. So those are all new infrared spots. However, they may fall within existing perimeters. So if you see something, it's an area of your concern, please check out the links below and zoom in and get more data than we can compress in one video. Looking at the wind for that region, coming from the southwest, 17 kilometers an hour, but then around Okanagan Lake it slows down. There's a trough that's flowing through the center of the interior, and it's very still, and it changes wind direction depending on your position. Here we're looking at 7 kilometers from the northwest, and that's the area right around the Flat Lake fire. So depending on where you are, whether you're southeast, east, or northeast of some of these fire zones, and depending on your proximity to these fire zones, you want to be aware and have a plan. We'll take a quick look up at the north central part of the province. We can see Prince George in the lower center right, and then a lot of activity around Nasco, up at the Nechako, Tweedsmuir, and then up in the northeast at Omineeka and Chase Provincial Park. A lot of these infrared clusters appear to be drifting or creeping eastward, and a lot of that pressure is coming from the wind right across the province. We're looking at 17 kilometers an hour from the southwest. That's close to Highway 16. And if we zoom out, look at the province, we can see that band where the lightning went through. It's moving right up the interior towards the northeast. A lot of spots, a lot of activity, and a lot of different fire flanks for wildfire crews to deal with. Looking at Western Canada, we're not alone. Saskatchewan northern section is dealing with a lot of activity over there. As well, in Western Ontario, they've got some major fires going on there. I've been watching those for quite some time. So we are not alone. Our situation is not unique. And again, another update from Chasm. I'm seeing that cluster of controlled infrared, almost like a signature. That may be wildfire crews using controlled ignition strategies to pound down the fire and get rid of fuel as they have the opportunity. I want to thank you all very much for watching and for your comments and updates on wind conditions and fire conditions in your local area. I hope other people find those useful. I do. Be on the lookout. Watch out for your friends and neighbors. Stay in contact with relatives, and do watch the wind. We're in this wind shifting time. It can be coming from directions that we're not seeing on windy, and we may not be seeing all the infrared that's out there. So it's important to be alert and be aware. It's wildfire season. Be safe. Keep your nose to the breeze.